Hello, everyone. I'm Brad Scheller, and in this video, I'm going to address what separates people who have a great idea from people who actually get great ideas funded. And that something is the pitch. So you spent the last several weeks of this course doing real work. You developed product requirements documents, spec documents, you built prototypes, you developed go-to-market plans. You've tested your concepts against AI-generated synthetic persona. You've been gathering hard evidence. That was the foundation. Now comes the part that actually gets you in the room with the people who write the checks, or the part that gets your CEO to greenlight your project, or the part that convinces a board to bet on your vision. This week in this video, it's about the architecture of a winning pitch. And I use the word architecture deliberately because a great pitch is designed and engineered, not thrown together the night before. So let's get into it. So here's where you are right now. You've validated your concept. You built a working prototype. You stress tested against over 100 AI-generated synthetic personas. You have market sizing, competitive analysis, pricing data, and a full go-to-market plan. You've done the hard part. So now comes the terrifying part, and that's standing in front of someone who's heard 1,000 pitches and convincing them that yours is the one worth betting on. And here's the thing nobody tells you in business school. The quality of your idea and the quality of your pitch are two completely different skills. Personally, I've seen brilliant products die because the founder couldn't explain them in under 5 minutes. And I've seen mediocre products get funded because the pitch was very compelling. Today, I'm going to try to make sure that you don't fall into that first category. So let's start with some research that, well, it should keep you up at night. Studies show that it takes about 7 seconds to make a first impression. 7 seconds. You haven't even finished saying your name yet. And here's what makes it worse. Your audience is completely distracted. It's really hard. They're thinking about the pitch they just saw or heard. They're thinking about the email they need to send, or the meeting after yours, or the kid of theirs that has a toothache. You have to cut through all of that noise and grab their attention before they reach for their phone. As public speaking expert Dominic Kenzo puts it, nobody cares about your agenda. They only care about one thing. What's in it for me? So your opening is everything. We'll get to exactly how to nail it in a few minutes. But first, let's refrain what the pitch is actually supposed to accomplish, because most people get this completely wrong. And here's the single most important thing I'm going to say today, until the next time I say that this is the most important thing. So listen carefully. The purpose of your pitch is not to close the deal. It's not to get a yes. It's not to walk out with a check. The purpose of your pitch is to earn the right to have the next conversation. That's it. Your one and only job is to be so clear, so compelling, so interesting that the person across the table says, "Tell me more. When can we meet again?" Think about that for a second. It actually takes the pressure off. You don't have to explain everything. You don't have to answer every possible question. You just have to make them want to keep talking to you. And here's why this matters beyond just fundraising. As Yasir Khan, the communications expert, puts it, every single word that comes out of your mouth defines how people perceive you and your entire business. Your pitch isn't just a presentation. It's the audio logo for your brand. Whether you're pitching a VC, a CEO, a board of directors, or a client, you're really pitching yourself. Investors buy you long before they buy your company. Now let's talk about the biggest mistake even smart people make in pitches. They lead with data. And look, I get it. You spent weeks gathering evidence, running persona tests, building financial models. You want to show your work. I get it. But here's the reality. Executives and investors are drowning in data all day long. Every pitch they see has numbers. What cuts through the noise isn't a better spreadsheet. It's a story that makes them feel the problem and get excited about the solution. Think of it this way. The story of the king. All your data, that's your personal test results, your market sizing, your competitive analysis, that's the loyal court to the king. The data is absolutely crucial. It provides the proof, the credibility, but it always serves the king. The narrative leads the audience where you want them to go. Nobody ever left a pitch saying, wow, that was a spreadsheet. That really is great. But they do leave saying, I can't stop thinking about the problem they described. That's the difference. Data supports, but story sells. So if story is king and data serves the story, what do you do with all that incredible work you've done? All those persona test reports, the iteration logs, the full go-to-market plan, the technical architecture. What do you do? Well, here's the answer. And this is a concept I want you to remember for the rest of your careers. I call it the iceberg principle. Think about an iceberg. You see about 10% above the waterline. That's your pitch deck. Clean, compelling, visual, story-driven. But underneath, there's 90% holding it all up. That's your exhibits book, your leave behind document. Everything you built in phase 4, the prototype test reports, the full go-to-market plans, the architecture decisions, the iteration logs, the financial projections, all of that goes into the exhibits book. It doesn't go in your pitch. Now, here's why this matters practically. Your pitch gets you the meeting. Great. Your exhibit books closes the deal. After your pitch, the investors analysts go through your exhibits line by line. The CEO team reviews your exhibits book before the following up meeting. The depth of your research is what gives them confidence to say yes, but they only get there if your pitch earned the next conversation. So the question for every piece of information you have is, does this go above the waterline or below it? So, all right, let's get tactical. We've all been in the audience for this pitch, right? It's someone who walks up, who clears the throat and says, good morning, everyone. My name is John Smith. I'm from Team 5. Today, we're going to talk about our product, Smart Clean. First, I'll give you some background on the market. Then I'll walk you through our features. Then we'll cover pricing. And then we'll open it up for questions. And what's happening in the audience? Well, they're already gone. You're checking your email. You're thinking about lunch because nothing in that opening gave you a single reason to care. As Dominic Kenzo says, that's the kiss of death from engagement. You started with your agenda instead of their problem. You told them the structure of your presentation before giving them any reason to listen to it. It's like a movie starting with the table of contents instead of the opening scene. Doesn't work. So I'm going to share a little secret about how you actually open. There's a formula called STAR, and once you learn it, you'll notice every great speaker uses it. It's invisible to the audience, but incredibly effective. So S is for surprise. Start with something unexpected, a startling statistic, a provocative question, a bold statement, something that makes everyone in the audience stop and think, what, wait, what? For example, last year, American businesses lost $340 billion to a problem that has a $30 solution. Well, that's a surprise. Now I'm listening. T is for takeaway. Immediately tell them what's in it for them. Not your agenda, their benefit. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you how we eliminate that problem and capture a piece of that market. So they got my interest. A is for authority. Only now, after you've hooked them, do you briefly explain why you're the right person, why your team is the right team. Our team has 15 years of combined experience in this space, and our prototype has been validated by 200 potential customers. That's authority. And R is for roadmap. Only at the very end of your opening do you give structure. I'm going to walk you through the problem, our solution, and exactly what we need from you to make this happen. Notice the difference? Same information as before in that boring opening, but completely structured to hook. Hook first, credentials second, agenda last. Let me say that again. Hook first, credentials second, agenda last. So now let's build your actual pitch slide by slide, okay? This is the structure I recommend, and each of these becomes one slide in your deck. Slide 1, the problem. This is the most important slide in your entire pitch after the opening. And sometimes you can combine the opening with the problem. You need the audience, make them feel the pain, not just understand it intellectually, feel it. Don't say, for example, small businesses struggle with inventory management. Instead, say something like, Sarah runs a boutique bakery. Every Tuesday, she throws away $200 of ingredients because she ordered based on a gut feeling instead of actual demand data. Last year, that added up to over $10,000, money she could have used to hire another baker. See the difference? One is a statistic, the other is a story that makes you wince. Stories sell. One compelling scenario and one supporting statistic. That's all you need. Make them think. Yeah, I've seen that problem. That's real. That's what you want them to think. And here's the editorial decision. All of your detailed persona pain point analysis, the quotes from individual personas, the segment by segment breakdown, that goes in the exhibit book. On this slide, you tell one powerful story. That's all. Now, slide 2, that's your solution. This is where your prototype earns its keep. Don't describe your product, show it. If you built a software product, show a couple of key screenshots or actual demo. If you build a physical product, show it in action. The audience should be able to look at this slide and immediately understand what your product does and why it's better than the status quo. And here's the rule. Show, don't tell. Instead of saying, our platform uses AI to predict inventory needs, show a screenshot of the dashboard with a prediction in action. Instead of describing your physical product's features, show someone using it and smiling. And keep it focused. You don't need to show every feature. Show the one thing that solves the problem you just described. Remember Sarah in her bakery? Show the screen where she sees tomorrow's predicted demand and orders exactly what she needs. Connect the solution directly to the pain. Your architecture document, your full feature list, your technical specifications, all of that lives in the exhibits book. On this slide, you show the magic moment. The next slide, slide number 3, that's how it works. This is a simple 3-step visual. Step 1, step 2, step 3, that's it. The user does this, then this happens, then they get this result. Think of it like the back of a shampoo bottle. Lather, rinse, repeat. Except your version is something like connect your inventory system, receive daily demand predictions, auto order with one click. 3 steps, no jargon, no technical details about your API integrations or your machine learning pipeline. Save that for the exhibits book. A CEO doesn't care how the sausage is made. They care that customers can understand it in 10 seconds. If you can't explain how your product works in 3 steps, your product might be too complicated, or more likely, you haven't distilled it enough. As Einstein supposedly said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. Now, a good test, could your mother follow these 3 steps? If yes, you've nailed it. Now, slide number 4, that's your target market. And I want to be very clear about something here. Small business owner, that's not a target market. Women aged 25 to 45, that's not a target market. Those are demographics. Your target market, your beachhead, needs to be specific enough that you could walk into a room and point to the exact person you're selling to. Independent bakeries in metro areas with annual revenue between $500,000 and $2 million currently using manual inventory processes. Now that's a target market. I can picture those people. I know where to find them. I know what trade shows they attend and what publications they read. So this specificity is actually what gives investors and CEOs confidence, puts a smile on their face. It shows you understand the difference between the market you could eventually serve and the market you're going to dominate first. Now, Jeffrey Moore, who wrote Crossing the Chasm, calls this the beachhead strategy. You don't storm the entire beach at once. You take one section and hold it. Your full persona profiles, your segment analysis, all of your persona testing data. That supports this slide from the exhibits book. But on this slide, you paint a vivid picture of exactly who you're serving first. Slide number 5 is the market opportunity. And here's where you show them the size of the prize. And the key is one big number followed by your realistic slice. Your TAM, total addressable market, is the dream. It's the biggest number you can credibly claim. But investors know that number is aspirational. What they really care about is your SOM, the serviceable obtainable market. That's the piece you can realistically capture in the next 3 to 5 years. So the structure is the inventory management market for small food businesses is a $12 billion market. That's the dream. We're targeting the independent bakery segment, which represents $800 million. Our beachhead of metro area bakeries with manual processes is a $42 million opportunity. And we plan to capture 8% in year one. That's $3.4 million. See how that works? Big dream, realistic plan, your full TAM, SAM, SOM calculations, your sources, your methodology, all that goes in the exhibits book. On this slide, you show the funnel from big to focused. That's all you do. Now, slide 6 is about market positioning. And actually, this is one of my favorite slides because it shows where strategy becomes visual. Now, I want you to think about this as two charts side by side. On the left side, it shows how the market is currently perceived. You plot your competitors on a 2x2 matrix using the axes that the industry currently competes on, maybe price versus number of features or ease of use versus capabilities. In this view, you're probably lost in a crowded quadrant, fighting for scraps. Now, here's the move. On the right side, you redraw the map. You change the axes to dimensions that matter to your customers, but that nobody is competing on yet. Maybe it's time to value versus personalization. Maybe it's works without IT support versus predictive accuracy. Now, suddenly, your product sits alone in the upper right corner, uniquely positioned with no direct competition. This is the essence of competitive strategy. You don't win by being slightly better on someone else's terms or turf. You win by changing the terms entirely. Make the market think about what matters to them in a new way, a way that leads directly to your door. And at the bottom of the slide, put your positioning statement for target customer who need product is the category that the key differentiator, unlike the alternatives, because a reason to believe. That one sentence should capture your entire competitive strategy. This next slide, slide 7, is about competitive advantage. And this is where you're going to show your proof. You just showed them where you sit on this map, this new market positioning map. Now show them why you win. And the structure here is simple. There's 3 columns. Column 1, who are the big players? Name them. Don't be coy about it. Investors respect founders who know their competitive landscape cold. Column 2, what do they do well? And be honest. These investors are not stupid. Acknowledging competitor strengths shows maturity and market awareness. Column 3, and this one is the one that matters. What do you do that they don't? What's your unique advantage? Is it your technology, your approach, your speed, your cost structure? your team's domain expertise. And here's a tip from the trenches. Don't list 12 differentiators. Pick 2 or 3 that are truly defensible. And by that, what I mean is things that are hard to copy. If your advantage is better user interface, that can be copied in 6 months. But if your advantage is proprietary data set built from partnerships with 300 bakeries or patent pending prediction algorithm trained on 5 years of spoilage data, those are moats. They're going to be difficult to copy. Now, keep the detailed competitive analysis and SWOT in your exhibits book, but that stuff feeds this stuff. Now, on this slide, you tell a clear story. Here are the giants, here's what they miss, and here's why we win. And this brings us to slide 8, which is your evidence. Now, this is where all that persona testing pays off. Remember, anyone can stand up and say, we believe there's demand for us. We can do this. But you can say, hey, we tested this with 200 potential customers, and here's what we found. That's a completely different conversation. On this slide, show your top 3 to 4 findings. Things like purchase intent was 73% amongst your target segment. The top requested feature was the one you built. Willingness to pay exceeded your planned price point. And this one's important, show the before and after. If you did 2 rounds of testing and your scores improved, that tells a powerful story about your team's ability to iterate and listen to the market. You're not just saying you have a good product, you're showing that you have a process for making it better. And that is what sophisticated investors and CEOs are looking for. Not for perfection, but for a feedback loop that can quickly iterate and improve. And that works. Your full test reports, persona, the breakdown, the iteration log showing exactly what changed and why, all that goes into the exhibits book. On this slide, you show the headline that proves the market wants what you have built. Now, here is a very popular slide for CEOs and investors, how you make money. And this should be the clearest slide in your deck. If an investor can't understand your revenue model in 5 seconds, you made it too complicated. There are really only a handful of business models. There's subscription, transaction fee, licensing, a marketplace, freemium, advertising, or direct sales. Pick yours and show it simply. Customers pay $49 per month for the base plan. Average bakery stays 23 months. That's a lifetime value of $1,127 against a customer acquisition cost of $90. That's a 12-to-1 lifetime value to cost of acquisition ratio. That's clean, that's clear, that's compelling. You don't need to show every pricing tier, every discount scenario, every upgrade path. That goes in the exhibits book along with your full pricing sensitivity data from persona testing and your 4 Ps tactical plan. On this slide, show the engine, what they pay, how often, and why the math works. Keep it simple. And this brings us to slide 10, your team. And I'll be direct. This is a slide most people do wrong. They turn it into a resume dump. 3 headshots, 3 paragraphs of career history, and the audience's eyes are glazed over. Here's what investors actually want to know. Why is this team the team that wins this particular battle? Not your whole career story. We don't care. Just the part that makes you dangerous in this specific market. If you're building a bakery inventory tool, I don't care that you were CTO at Google, unless they worked on Google's supply chain prediction team. Make the connection explicit. And here's the subtle part. The team slide also answers an unspoken question. Can I work with these people for the next 5 to 10 years? Because that's what investment really is. It's a long-term relationship, and you need to show that your team can be someone that they can work with. So your team slide should convey competence, complementary skills, and the kind of quiet confidence that makes people want to be in the foxhole with you. Full bios, your advisory board, org charts, all that goes in the exhibits book. On this slide, 1 line per person, their name, their role, and the one thing that makes them the right person for that role. Again, keep it simple and straightforward. And that brings us to slide 11, which is the grand finale. And this is a slide your entire pitch has been building towards, so make it count. It has two parts, the ask and the vision. The ask must be specific, not, hey, we're looking for funding. That's lazy. Instead, we're raising $500,000 to acquire our first 200 customers, hire a lead engineer, and reach break even within 18 months. Now that's specific. Specific amount, specific use of funds, specific milestone. If you're pitching a CEO internally, the same principle applies. We need 2 engineers and a 60-day runway to build the MVP and run a pilot with 3 customers. Then, and this is the move that separates a good pitch from forward, you paint the future, entice them. For example, in 3 years, every independent bakery in America will be able to predict tomorrow's demand as accurately as Walmart predicts holiday shopping. That's the world we're building, and we'd like you to build it with us. That is a powerful statement. End on the vision, not the logistics. Make them see what success looks like. Keep it in their minds. Make them want to be part of the story. Your budget allocation details, your location decisions, your crossing the chasm strategy, all that rigor lies in the exhibit book. On this slide, you make them lean forward and say, I'm in. Tell me more. All right, so you've got your 11 slides. Now let's talk about how you deliver them, because honestly, delivery is everything. And here's the most important thing I can tell you. Please do not memorize your pitch word for word, because when you memorize, you sound like a robot reciting lines. You lose the ability to react to the room, to adjust when you see someone lean forward with interest, or when you get a question that takes you in a different direction. What you want instead is to internalize the message. And that means you know the key points, the flow, the emotional arc, so well that you can talk about it naturally, like you're talking to a friend about something you're passionate about. And that's the secret. It lets you be present in the room and actually connect with the people you're talking to. And that is everything. And here's a quick body language tip. And, I don't know if this is true or not, but it almost sounds too simple to work. But show your palms when you gesture. Open palms like this, palms visible. It seems like a cheap gimmick, and I'd probably never try it. But if it works. Anyway, it's a deeply embedded trust signal, and it goes back thousands of years. It tells the other person's brain, I have nothing to hide. And so small change, big impact. Give it a shot. On videos to get a chance, get your movement going into the lens of the camera. And by the way, own the silence too. When you finish and there's a pause, let the quiet sit. Give the presenters in the room the chance to deal with the idea. So those are a couple of tips. So everything went great. Now let's talk about the document that does the heavy lifting after you leave the room, your exhibit book. Now, think of this as the leave behind, the comprehensive document you hand to the investor or the executive at the end of your pitch. They might flip through it right there, but more likely their analysts or analyst teams dig into it before the follow-up meeting, if they ask for a follow-up meeting. This is where all of your depth, your rigor, your evidence, where it lives. And here's a strong exhibits book table. Chapter 1, an executive summary, a 1-page version of your entire pitch for the person who wasn't in the room. Chapter 2, your product, the architecture, the technical specs, screenshots, user flows. Chapter 3, market analysis, your full TAM, SAM, SOM with every source cited. Chapter 4, competitive landscape, the detailed feature matrix, the SWOT analysis, the competitor profiles. Chapter 5, your research, both rounds of persona testing, what changed, what improved, what risks still remain. Chapter 6, your go-to market plan. All plans backed up by data. Chapter 7, financial projections and budget allocation, where every dollar goes. Chapter 8, team bios and advisors. And you can tell this is true because my hands are here. Chapter 9, an appendix with raw data for anyone who wants to go deeper. Think of your pitch as the movie trailer. The exhibits book is the full film. The trailer gets them to the theater. The film is what earns the 5-star review and you that paycheck you're looking for. I want to take a moment to show you the difference all this makes with a quick before and after. So on the left is what I call the data dump slide. You've probably seen these. Maybe you've even made them. I know I made them earlier in my career. 12 bullet points, 3 different font sizes, a chart crammed into one corner, numbers everywhere. The presenter reads every bullet out loud. The audience retains nothing. On the right side is the same information redesigned for a pitch. And you'll see the difference. One key insight, one supporting number, one visual that tells the story. All the details are still there. It's just in the exhibits book where someone can actually study it properly with time. So look at the difference. The data dump says, I did a lot of work. The story side says, I understand what matters. Both use the same evidence. One of them gets a follow-up meeting. The other gets a polite, hey, we'll be in touch, really, which, as you all know from your professional lives, means, oh, we won't be in touch. Lose our number. Every slide in your pitch should pass the test. Could someone understand the key message in 5 seconds on this slide? If it takes longer than that, move the details to the exhibits book. So here's your quick reference. When you're building your pitch, check every item on this list. Your opening uses the STAR formula: surprise, takeaways, authority, roadmap. You have 11 core slides: problem, solution, how it works, target market, market opportunity, market positioning, competitive advantage, research findings, business model, team, and the ask with the vision. Your market positioning slide shows 2 views: how the market sees it now and how you reframe the market positioning definitions, with a positioning statement at the bottom. Every claim has evidence behind it, even if the evidence lives in the exhibits book. Your exhibits book is complete and organized. You've practiced enough to internalize, not memorize, and every team member has a speaking role. This isn't a one-person show. Divide the pitch among your team so each person presents the section where their expertise shines. One more thing. Practice. Time yourselves. A 15-minute pitch that runs 22 minutes tells the audience you can't manage scope. A 12-minute pitch that ends with time for questions shows you respect their time and are confident enough to invite scrutiny. That is a difference. And here's what I want to leave you with. When you walk into that room, whether it's a VC's office, a CEO's boardroom, or a conference stage, you're not just presenting slides. You're inviting someone to cross a bridge with you. A bridge from the problem that exists today to the future that your product creates a solution for. Your pitch is the bridge. Your story is what makes them want to cross it. Your evidence is what makes them believe the other side is real. And your exhibits book is the engineering report that proves the bridge can hold weight. So go build that bridge. And when you're ready to pitch, here's what you deliver. A 10 to 12 slide pitch deck that tells a compelling story. A comprehensive exhibits book that backs up every claim. A 15-minute presentation where every team member contributes. And the confidence that comes from knowing your evidence cold because you did the work, you validated, you tested, you iterated. Now go tell the story. I believe in you, and now make them believe in you too. And again, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the material.